Hey there, it's Eric Stewart with Solar Luna Yoga, and today I'm going to talk about movement as a remedy for pain and movement as nourishment. So movement is one of the best things that we can do for pain, but it's important to recognize that sometimes people experience a connection of movement with pain. They move a certain way and it causes pain, and that can cause us to be hesitant about using movement to address pain. And the unfortunate thing with that is that when we move less, our nervous system and our body's perceptual system in general will kind of clamp down and say, okay, movement's not so great. We're going to stop moving. And it can be a kind of self-reinforcing pattern. But there's lots of research that indicates that movement is absolutely one of the best things that we can do to address pain. So how do we reconcile those two things? First of all, I want to talk about nourishment because people these days, I think, feel undernourished in many ways. Like life is set up in so many ways that we're under a lot of stress, and there are lots of distractions, and all of those things tend to often get in the way of being really well nourished. And that includes the food we eat, that includes the rest we get. It also includes movement. Movement is nourishment. And if we don't move, again, it reinforces this sense and state of not moving. And we get further away and we feel less nourished and less able to move and more limited in the ways that we can move. So if you find yourself in a situation where in some part of your life or in a larger sense, not the best relationship with movement, or you find you do certain movements and there's pain, something to do is explore how you can move gently, how you can start with small movements in smaller ranges that work for you. And the great thing about movement is there's a whole large continuum of possibilities available, from very small, incremental, gentle movements to very vigorous, active movements. And ultimately, we want to explore as much of that range as possible. But if you find yourself in a situation where for a time your movement has been limited, or certain circumstances cause you to have sensitivity around movement, then it's important to start gradually, incrementally, to find movements that you can do that work out for you, even if those are very gentle. So the movement practices that I would suggest for someone who's just been sick or is coming off a long injury are going to be different than the movement practices that I would suggest for someone who runs several miles a day or is very active. But we can all, even when our movement currently is very limited, we can all find a range of movement that works for us. And so the other thing that I will say about this is that for any of us, whatever circumstances we're under in terms of how much movement we have available to us at any given time, it's important to find things that are gentle and restorative and more overtly nourishing, and to also find things that in movement that are challenging but doable. And again, for someone who's really physically active, that challenging but doable is going to be very different in contrast to someone who's been sick for a while or is coming off an injury or hasn't moved much for a period of time. But we can still find something that's challenging but not too challenging for anyone. And that challenging side of it is nourishing. So it's easy to get into a dichotomy of thinking, well, the nourishing stuff, the restorative stuff, the very gentle stuff, that's nourishing. The challenging stuff is different, but we all need to be challenged with movement and with other things in life, but it's important not to be overwhelmed by those challenges. So it's about finding that range and finding what's appropriate for us. Combining that very gentle restorative movement and some amount of challenging movement is a structure that's really useful as a remedy for pain. If you're interested in this, we run a course on pain called Pain First Aid. And within the course, there's a lot to explore in terms of these different sorts of movements and how they can help us. So thanks for listening. The end. Information about the Pain First Aid course can be found in the description below. If you find this content useful, please like and subscribe.